Vice Chair has one. Would you like to pull one up for discussion?
Item 33, please. Item 33 is to consider the approval of amendment number 5 to contract number 16-08 with Liberty Healthcare Corporation for the provision of comprehensive mental health and programming services in the county's detention facilities, increasing the contract amount from or by $4,506,178 from the $41,663,694, and so on and so forth. Walk us a bit through how all of this started, I believe January of 16, and the path we've taken from the original, if I remember correctly, on or about $3 million to what is now has been 4 previous amendments that have brought us to this 5th amendment. Today's item bumps this up now to $46 million. I think it is important that the public is aware of the constraints upon which the Sheriff's Department and this county is having to conform to outside forces, that many times we think, the county budget is flush with money. They've got great reserves. We're very cognizant of how we spend our money, very frugal, very responsible. And at the same time, over and over again, we end up with limited resources or having to say, nope, we can't spend that money. We can't consider this project. We can't look at this capital improvement opportunity because we have responsibilities that many times are unforeseen or imposed from outside sources, and I think this is one of them. So if you'd be so kind as to give this presentation, because this item is going to impact this county economically for years to come. It's going to hinder and disable the improvement projects that we have on different timelines and clotheslines in which we want to deliver services and projects for our residents, and we will be unable to. Thank you very much. Please proceed.
When it comes to healthcare, so we're going to talk about healthcare in general, medical and mental health care at local jails. I think the one thing to understand and to grasp is that individuals who are incarcerated or have a constitutional entitlement to healthcare, and that's what creates that relationship and that challenge as opposed to the community, whereas a person in the community is free to walk from one hospital to the next, but a person who is incarcerated is not, and that's where you create that relationship of the government incarcerating individual and providing the health care. Our jail system health care initially was designed for that short-term incarcerated individual who was in and out rather quickly. The same thing with our inmate programs, and so we've been having to adjust and modify as we go. I think Riverside County was the first in California. The 4th day, they had an individual sentenced to 13 and a half years. And then you had Santa Barbara had a young man sentenced to 21 years, and LA has one for 43. So you create this long-term healthcare demand on the county level. Now, I could talk for a while on healthcare, but I'll focus primarily on mental health care that we're talking about here right now.
Please.
Just to paint the picture and to get an understanding of what we're dealing with here. On any given day, our average incarceration rate is probably about 6,000 prisoners throughout our 4 jails. And of that, you have roughly 25%, roughly 1,500 of those individuals who could be receiving any sort of mental health care. And it could be all the way from a basic counseling for that person who was first time arrested, all the way to a seriously mentally ill individual. Now, of that 25%, that 1,500, the average of that, of about 25% of that 1,500, roughly 350 to 400, are categorized as a seriously mentally ill individual. Now, the mentally ill in the jail has been a problem that's been for many years, and it's not just a state problem, it's a national problem. And the challenge that you see, to really focus it, is that when the biggest mental hospital in the United States is the jail, that tells you the scope of the problem.
Speak more to that court order, because that's what I was referring to as how it's being imposed upon us, whether we like it or not, which then generates the cost that we're looking at in this item.
That's right. So back in December of 18, we signed the consent decree, which basically puts us on a path of 4 years to restore our level of health care, which is a big lift, not only providing the basic emergency mental health care, but it is focusing a lot on individualized therapeutic treatment, group treatment. It's also employing more of a step-down process of treating the mentally ill, because a lot of jails in California or even through the nation, we do a good job of identifying the mentally ill and doing some basic treatments, some medication management. But what we're changing and what this court order is requiring us to change is to get more of a step-down process to integrate these individuals back into the inmate population or into the community.
It is important. I want to focus on the fact that this is a long-term court order imposed upon us. The fact that we are spending $46 million should this item be approved today, being able to have the outcome, the data outcome that will prove that we're having results in order to reduce the recidivism rates, because we're spending the same, the money, more different pockets, different funding streams of money on the same person over and over again. We have to get smart. We have to be working with our private enterprise, with our faith-based organizations. We have to maximize the fact that these individuals are our tenants. They belong to us. We've got them. And if we don't grab them when we've got them under custody and we're able to, have diagnosis and prognosis of their situations, and then working with the public guardian, working with mental health, behavioral health, and even our foster system. All of this comes, and many other spokes of the umbrella that will cover the multiple of circumstances upon which our felons find themselves in, our tenants. It seems that we really have to be Johnny on the spot here and get better at this, or else the Sheriff's Department is going to continue to be the housing mechanism for the mentally ill, for the homeless, and either we become part of the solution, part of the mechanism by which we address homelessness on our streets, or we become a contributor.
No, and you're right on point, Supervisor. We understand, obviously, we cannot build our way out of this problem. It has to be a collaboration.
But we're throwing a great deal of money at it under a court order, and we need to get smart and figure out how do we maximize the return.
On the jail system, what we'll eventually start to do more focused would be the initial assessment upon entry, and that's key. Identifying these folks early, starting to build a relationship with these individuals, because oftentimes the seriously mentally ill in that category, and that's the category I'm focusing on, that seriously mentally ill population, those individuals that are using a lot of resources throughout our entire community, is identifying them early. We do that through our START program.
And does any of this money go over to START?
START is, on this particular money, no. This is directly with the Liberty agreement.
Right, you're right. But I'm making points here that have to be addressed in order for us to be able to garner the data, positive data that shows that we are reducing the recidivism. I know it is a very complicated, very detailed item, but it's important that the public understand where their taxpayers' money is going, and why, when we have projects that come before us, we have to say no or they're delayed, and our residents say, well, why can't I have this service over here in whatever unincorporated area? It's because we are mandated, and in this case, we're looking at $46 million. I stress to you that once again, my Sheriff's Department is not the social services department and should never be put in this situation. It is a tragedy that men and women in uniform, including fire, have to be the first responders, to many of these mentally disabled initiated incidents that then have other ramifications. And we need to get a handle on this. Homelessness isn't just a tragedy that is happening on the streets. It is a tragedy that is happening and impacting city budgets, county budgets, and we need to get smarter on this.
And ideally, as you mentioned, treating the mentally ill in a jail is not an ideal place, but we're going to give it one heck of a try while they're there. So it is a challenge that we've been dealing with, and I think with that, I'll turn it over to my sheriff.
Whether it be homelessness or mentally ill in the jail, and those folks getting out of our jails and how they get transitioned back into the community and get the support they need, everybody in this county is on the same team. And I think that's where we have an advantage over others, because nobody has an ego, and it's all about what's good for the inmate in this particular case, but what's good for our community, and how do we spend those tax dollars to the best of our ability to make a difference. And I think we are making a difference. And you're well aware of what's going on in the jails. And, you know, I can go on and on. We have a miniature donkey that comes into the jail that treats the inmates. And I would have never thought that we would have had animals inside the jail, but it's working.
Yes.
And those are things that are out of the box thinking that are effective. And whether it be court-ordered medication for those inmates that don't want to take their medication, so that we get them back on board and transition them through CTAS back into the community, into the right place they need. Because if they stay on their meds and they stay in treatment, they don't reoffend, and we don't end up with them, and that's the goal.